Sifter for the ear.
News, interviews, reviews, cinema, TV, streaming. Action!
Hi, y'all. This is Jerry Williams, a.k.a. TV Jerry. The 6th annual Pocahontas Reframed Film Festival, which honors the contributions of Native Americans, runs next week from November 18th through 20th at the VMFA.
You know, the first few red carpets you do, you're kind of like, oh my God, this is so exciting. But it does feel like work after a while.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, and also it's not always the most comfortable thing, like wearing like super high heels. And it used to be something that I really enjoyed as sort of an expression of my individuality. But now it feels a little bit like part of my job rather than fun.
That was Constance Wu talking about walking the red carpet. Her new book, Making a Scene, looks at her rise to fame in Fresh Off the Boat and Crazy Rich Asians, but spends more time recalling some of the fun and traumas of growing up right here in Richmond. We're going to talk about the video project she was in, which I directed in 1995, and a lot more.
Sifter Review of the Week.
Inside Man on Netflix. This series takes place in 2 different countries. One is on death row in the U.S., while the other plays out in England. Stanley Tucci plays a convicted killer who also helps solve murders from his cell. Across the pond, a vicar, played by David Tennant, has an early encounter with a troubled parishioner. This event is the seed for a series of conflicts that continually twist. Tucci and Tennant are both superb, as is the rest of the cast. Some bad decisions are made early on, which sets things into motion, but sometimes they seem convoluted. Even so, once things start to roll, it's a fascinating exploration of 2 very different sets of characters and what we're all capable of doing. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
You guys are at the mall all the time. All I have to do is bring along the camera.
You bring along the camera? I don't think so. This time, I'm running the camera.
That was a clip from a video called Class Action that I wrote and directed in 1995. And that second voice was Constance Wu, who was in the video when she was still in middle school. We're going to start talking about that video. I read the book, obviously, and you remember an educational video for public schools, and it was actually statewide, and we had like 25 kids. It was a big production, but you were in it. What do you remember about it? Anything?
I remember that we shot at Regency Square Mall.
Right, very good.
There were a bunch of different kids who were all doing like these projects.
Right.
I actually remember the name of one of the girls.
Wow.
Like in our group, because I remember it was a unique name. I think her name was Malika.
Yeah, okay, very good. And the guy was Sean, and I loved it because it was 1995, and when I was casting, Sean walked in with a big afro, and in 1995, nobody had an afro, and I'm like, get him in, and he could act too, luckily, so he was great too.
Yeah, it was fun.
Now, you know, you've written a book, obviously, and you've gotten so much press. You were on the front page of New York Sunday Styles. In the book, you called books your first love, but your teacher gave you such a trauma about writing later on in high school, so why did you decide to write something anyway? Teacher be damned.
You know, to be honest, I was actually pressured by an agent.
Oh, okay.
An agent of mine who was like, no, this is like a really great opportunity. And, you know, I actually first started writing this back in 2016. The agent had been like bothering me about it. And then around 2016, you know, tensions were high and a lot of people were having a lot of feelings about the election results, myself included.
Myself included too.
Yes. Back then I had in mind that I would write a much more politically minded book. But obviously it didn't become that because, you know, when I was trying to write politically minded stuff, it was just really scattered and like all over the place and didn't have a lot of structure. But every once in a while, there'd be a tidbit of like a personal story, and that would be the best part of the quote unquote political piece. And so I decided to expand upon personal stories that were meaningful to me. And that's how the book came to be. It was a lot of just small personal stories about a normal suburban girl in Richmond, Virginia.
Now, it's interesting because actually, I'm sure you must have said, well, I can't do an autobiography. I'm still in my 40s. So
yeah.
Was it the activism? Was it the incidents that happened with Twitter and all that kind of drove it a little bit more to make it more about your personal life and say, here's who I am, check it out?
I know some people probably think it was that, but to be honest, I had finished writing most of the book before any of that Twitter stuff or Fresh Off the Boat's renewal, any of that happened. In fact, I had not been planning on including that essay about Fresh Off the Boat in my book. I was just encouraged to write it by my editor. And it was the last one I wrote. And I thought I was just going to write it as an exercise rather than including it. But, rewriting it made me relive a lot of the trauma that I went through and made me understand it better. And I realized that that could be helpful to other people who might revisit their own experiences with a little grace and empathy and understanding and forgiveness for themselves. So I included it because of that. But most of it isn't about that. Most of it is about like me being a kid before I was even, a successful actress in Hollywood.
All this crazy stuff. And, and it's funny. It's interesting because you're not afraid of sex talk in the book. You talk about oral sex and genitals and orgasms and in very racy terms. Why were you bold enough to do that?
I think, the way I was writing was I was just trying to write honestly.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all talk that way when nobody's listening, but you put it in print.
Yeah, but when you're writing, nobody's listening, right?
Good point. Yeah.
When you're writing, it's very private. And you know what? You don't have to share it. It's like a diary. If you don't want to share your journal or your diary with somebody, you don't have to. There are definitely essays I did not include in the book, but I do think that in art, literature, film, the things that move us the most are the more personal stories, the things that people are kind of scared of revealing about themselves. And after having gone through a lot of therapy, and I feel really grounded in myself and my values, so I feel capable of sharing that in order to make others feel less alone with, their private thoughts and troubles.
It makes sense. That's a good point. You're married now, and your husband was okay with you listing all of these assignations that you had in these heavy-duty love affairs, actually.
Well, I'm not married, actually.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
No, I'm just in a relationship.
You're just living in sin, as we call it.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, that's another thing. I don't really prescribe to really old societal norms of how a family ought to look. Me and my boyfriend have a wonderful daughter, and we raise her together as a family. And, I don't really see the need for marriage right now.
It's interesting you say that because I'm gay. And when I could get married, I got married almost immediately because I could never get married. So it's interesting that people who can get married are like, nah, but people who couldn't are like, hey, give me those benefits. So,
I didn't know you were gay.
In 1995, I was gay in 1995, but you don't talk about that with middle school kids.
No, I mean, I'm sure you probably wouldn't. If I had asked you, you probably wouldn't have lied. But
sure.
When we were kids, you were talking about like acting and like setting up the shot. We were talking about what we were doing because we're both just normal people.
Exactly. I don't know how normal I am, but you can claim that if you want. So it's interesting because you did put so many details of friendships with people that you said, some of whom you're not still really close to, only using their first names. But if you really probably did a little research, somebody could probably figure out who they are.
No. I didn't use their first names. I did fake names.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Like Fiona is not the real name.
Okay. I just thought they were the real first names. I never realized. Okay. So
everything has a fake name. Yeah.
But did you have to contact all those people and say, by the way?
I contacted almost everybody I wrote about in a positive light. Everybody that I still had their information for.
Right.
The one essay I have about my middle school friend, who I call Fiona in the book, mm-hmm. I didn't contact her. I'm not in contact with her anymore. But, it's just that there was nothing horrible there. It was a very typical teenage.
Oh, yeah. We've seen it on Netflix 20 times, right?
Yeah, totally. It happens to a lot of teenage girls.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because you mentioned that because, I knew you and I read the book. And of course, you're this sweet little Richmond girl. But then there's this thing in there about you throwing spitballs and napkins. You really were a bad girl. You were a little bit saucy, weren't you?
Gary, you did not read that chapter very well because I did not throw the spitballs. They threw the spitballs at me.
I thought it said somewhere you threw them later. After they threw them at you, you threw them back.
No, I never threw spitballs at Fiona. She was the one who threw them at me.
Oh, yeah. So you were a good girl.
I was a good girl. Yeah, I do think I was a good girl. I didn't get in trouble. I don't bully people. I'm still very nice to people on set, even if they aren't nice to me. And that essay about Fiona throwing spitballs at me and ridiculing me. I still forgive her. Because we were just teenagers figuring it all out.
Sure. Well, now
I never threw a spitball in my life.
Oh, darn. Well, good. We've got it recorded now for the world.
Yeah, it's in the book too. She threw them at me.
I misread that. So the other extreme is a Buddhist monastery. That was a pretty wild trip. What made you want to do that in the first place?
I was going through a very typical sophomoric artist searching for meaning phase in my life. I think I was probably like 19 or 20. Yeah, it was just an experience that, first of all, it was free. And it was something I hadn't heard of anybody else doing before. And I've always been fascinated by many different forms of religion. And I didn't really know much about Buddhism. So I thought I would try this program and live on a Buddhist monastery for a summer and learn about it.
Sounded pretty amazing. Do you still meditate?
Yes, not as often as I would like to, but I do still meditate, and I find it very, very fruitful when I do. But it's kind of like exercise. It's like nobody exercises as much as they want to.
Right.
But when they do, they feel
some. I was just saying that yesterday, that I hate getting into that pool, but once I get out, it feels great. So I agree
once you're doing it, it's great. It's just like getting to do it. And that's sort of how I am with meditation as well. But yes, I still do try to meditate regularly.
It's interesting that a couple places in the book you set up screenplays to depict certain incidents that happened in your life. Was that your idea? Was that the editor's idea? Or did that just evolve?
That was an editor's idea, actually, because the book was always called Making a Scene, dual meaning about, what it means when somebody makes a scene.
Right.
And also being a life as an actor, you make scenes for a living, whether it's on stage or screen. And there were parts of my book that were very dialogue heavy. And my editor was like, why don't you try writing them like plays or screenplays just to see what that would be like? And so I did. And it lended a nice objectivity to it that I really liked. So I think I have 4 scenes in there.
Yeah, I think there are 4. Yeah. So you think you'll ever write a screenplay now?
I have written screenplays.
Oh, okay, cool.
I've written a couple. One I'm developing, but it's a long process with that.
Oh yeah.
Surprise guest drop in.
Now, speaking of your days in Richmond, somebody's dropping in to say hello.
Oh my God!
It's Kelly Scallion.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey, it's so good to see you.
Oh my God, it's so good to see you too. How are you?
I'm so good.
Footnote.
Kelly Scallion was in several shows with Constance and is now Assistant Director of Admission at Christopher Newport University. When did y'all first meet? What do you remember about those crazy days?
The Magician's Nephew.
We were double cast in the same part.
We were double cast, so we played the same part. We were both Polly, but we were on 2 different casts because we were kids. So
yeah.
But we rehearsed together and we did all of the functions together and everything. So reading your book, Constance, I was taken back to like some of the memories that were unlocked that I had forgotten about.
Right. Did you know you were going to be in there, or did you get to that page and like, oh my God, there I am?
I suspected because she had talked to my mother, and so
I told your mom about.
Yes, my mom gave me the tip off for sure. But talking about how excited we were about things like the real candle, and I brought that back. That was the thing. We were really excited. We were like, this is real life.
Yeah.
Y'all have something else in common. Hold on one second.
Family, pictures of friends sharing your life.
That was another video. That was one that Kelly did when she was about your age.
Oh.
It was called Me and My Families. It was about different kinds of families. But yeah, so you've both been on camera for me. So that's another thing you have in common.
Oh, wow.
So what are some of the other things you remember? Come on, give us the stuff that Constance didn't put in the book, Kelly. Come on.
I don't think there's any dirt I can say about child Constance.
Child Constance. I love that.
The things that seemed really normal, but now when I look back at it, I'm like, that's so weird that we did that. Like, I don't know if you remember this, but we would get dressed up in our costumes and go to like Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, the bookstore.
Yeah, we would go to the bookstore and like sign autographs.
Yeah.
Like little baby celebrities.
And people actually wanted, and they didn't know who you were. They just figured you must be somebody.
Yeah, because we were dressed up in costume, and I think we would do like a part from the play as kind of like a
Yeah.
preview.
And, that play was based off of the books by C.S. Lewis. So it was, a tie-in with the book.
Got it. Already marketing.
Kelly, were you also in A Little Princess? Because I did that one too.
Yeah, I was in that one too.
Yeah.
Were you double cast in that one, or did you have different roles?
I think we had different roles.
I don't know. We were little.
We were really little. That was like my first one.
Yeah.
And you're younger than me. I'm 40 now. You're a couple years younger than me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So you were really, really little then.
Yeah. So I have very vague memories of doing that show, but yeah, it was a fun time. We would all the kids would get together, and it was like we were part of this club.
And your older sister, Casey was part of it too.
Yeah, she did so much in Richmond, so many different productions, and I would get dragged around with her to her things, and she would get dragged to my things, and so.
And of course, your mom, Vicki, is still, Hat Theater's going on 30 years. I don't know if you did any work there, Constance, or if you just did other work with Kelly other places.
I mean, I think Magician's Nephew was like a co-production with Hat Theater. So
cool.
It was.
Yeah. And Vicki's wonderful. And I remember both Casey and Kelly were just wonderful and so much fun. And you guys were homeschooled too, right?
Yes, we were. Mm-hmm.
I remember that because I remember you were like the first homeschooled kids I had ever met. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. We had the trademark, like really, really long hair,
Oh, I remember you had the long curly hair. It was beautiful. Oh my gosh. I was jealous of that hair.
Oh, stop.
People are always jealous of the hair they don't have. Well, in my case, any hair would be nice. But people with curly hair hate it, and they say, they want to straighten it. People with straightened hair want to curl it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I was definitely jealous of curly hair because I'm a very straight-haired girl. But
Right. Well, Kelly, I want to thank you for dropping in. Any other stories, any special memories you can give us about Constance before you go back to work? She's at work, actually.
I'm in the office right now, so I told everyone in the hallway to shut up.
Wow, where are you now? Are you in Virginia? Are you what do you do?
So I live in Williamsburg, but I work at Christopher Newport University, which is where I went to college. So
cool.
Yeah, it was really good to see you.
Good to see you too. This is truly such a surprise. Oh my God.
Good. That's the point.
Well, I read about myself in your book, and I was like, well, now I need to get on the Zoom call.
There you go. Actually, your mom recommended it. So, because I called her first, and she said, Kelly's the one. They were together, and they were great friends. So.
Aww. Please tell your mom I said hello as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a wonderful day.
Bye. Thanks, Kelly.
Bye-bye. So you mentioned in the book your passion for fashion. How does that play out now? Are you out buying fancy clothes, or you just get to wear them for the red carpet?
It's disappeared. When I was a teenager, I had a passion for fashion. But to be honest, now fashion feels a little bit like work for me because I have to do it for work. I have to do press events and red carpets. And, the first few red carpets you do, you're kind of like, oh my God, this is so exciting. But it does feel like work after a while.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah. And also it's not always the most comfortable thing, like wearing like super high heels. And it used to be something that I really enjoyed as sort of an expression of my individuality. But now it feels a little bit like part of my job rather than fun. And who knows, maybe I'll get back to a place where it's fun again. But yeah, as an adult in the industry now, it feels like it's a little bit more like work to me.
Yeah. And plus also now there is this emphasis now on not always wearing something new every time you show up, because you were just wasting so much money on fashion. So, people are starting to pull stuff out of their wardrobes or from, the past. Money's not the issue. It's just wasting all those resources to make more clothes.
Yeah. I mean, I went to an event for the Emmys a few years ago where I wore my prom dress.
Oh, great.
I recycled my prom dress from prom at Douglas South Hall Freeman High School.
That's great.
And I still have that. I love that dress. So yeah.
Why not? And you can fit in it. That's the best part.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same size.
Yeah. You talk about musicals and you love musicals. You haven't done one yet yourself, have you? I haven't read about one, either whether a play or even a movie at that point.
Well, I just did one. Lyle Lyle Crocodile is actually
of course. Right. The animated film. Right.
And then when I was in Richmond, I did a couple shows with Theater 4. Are they
Theater
still
4.
in
Yeah,
existence?
it's called Virginia Rep now, but yeah, they're the children's touring productions.
Yeah, no, I did some of their main stage productions.
Oh, okay.
I did The Music Man with them, and then I did Babes in Toyland, which was also...
Music Man would have been Larry Cook, was probably Harold Hill. Do you remember?
I don't remember. I remember but the Marion was played by a woman named Janine Sarasque.
Sarasek. She's still around. She does box office actually for Virginia Rep.
Oh God, her voice terrific. God, what a beautiful.
Still has a great voice. Yes, she does. That's cool that you remember her. And your daughter, is she showing any signs of acting yet?
Well, my daughter's only 2.
Right.
I will say she's definitely an extrovert.
Okay.
I think a lot of actors are extroverts. But in terms of acting, like she hasn't really seen anything because we don't do screens. So she hasn't seen.
Great.
Actually, that's not true. On planes, we do screens.
Right.
So she's seen like the movies on planes, on airplanes. So I don't know yet. That remains to be seen. But I mean, it was a wonderful experience for me doing community theater. So if she wanted to do that, I would 100% be behind her for that.
I want to ask you about this. Is kind of an interesting question. You may not even have a good answer to it, but I thought they were both interesting shows. Fresh Off the Boat, Kim's Convenience.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Canadian show, and actually that couple is Korean. Right.
Yes.
But you've never seen it.
I have not seen it, no, but I've heard great things.
The reason I wanted to mention even Kim's Convenient, because it was interesting because the 2 parents in that are immigrant parents, and they have very thick accents, and I have read that they don't actually have those literally in life. And I know you had some questions / issues with that in your show.
There was a lot of criticism over it, and I thought that it, just like Meryl Streep played a Polish woman in Sophie's Choice, so she's going to have a Polish accent.
Right.
I'm playing a real woman who has an accent, which I was, because my character was based off the real life Jessica Huang,
Right.
who is an immigrant, and English is her second language that she learned as an adult. She's going to have an accent. So
Sure.
for me, it's a natural byproduct of being bilingual.
Right.
And knowing 2 languages, which I think is something to wear with pride. And I think the people who protested are people who are responding to old wounds created by an ignorant Hollywood system that mocked those accents. So sure, some people might have laughed at it. Some people might have mocked at it. I don't make my art for those ignorant people.
Do you know 2 languages? Are you bilingual?
I'm bilingual to the point that like I can speak Mandarin, I think at the level of like a kindergartner.
Right.
So I can get around and I can do basic things. I can't have an in-depth conversation on politics or philosophy.
Sure.
But I could order food at a restaurant, ask how to get to the bus station.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
And are you sharing any of that culture with your daughter yet?
I've been trying to speak a little bit of Mandarin to her. Yeah, I'd like to more. I've been trying to. But my boyfriend is also Asian, but he's Filipino. But he does not speak Tagalog, and he never learned any Tagalog growing up. But I'd love to include that part of her culture in her life too, her Filipino culture.
And when they're that young, they pick up languages very quickly. So
yes, this is the time to learn.
Exactly.
Yeah,
now's the time to do it. So now you mentioned in the book that Randall Park, who of course you co-starred with in Fresh Off the Boat, was your gold standard of acting. You said gold standard as a person.
As a human being.
As a human being. What do you mean by that?
I just think he's a really good person. He's never been a creep, which, to be honest, in Hollywood, a lot of the straight men you meet, even the nice ones, have a little bit of like creepiness to them.
The gay ones don't?
Not to me.
I was going to say, maybe if you were a 24-year-old hot guy, they might.
Yeah, it's different. It's different. But not towards me.
Right.
But yeah, he's just an earnest, hardworking person who really cares about his family and his daughter, and is really empathetic and understanding of many people's experiences. And so I feel really grateful to have had him. I continue to talk to him. I think he's just a wonderful person.
So have you seen Blockbuster yet?
I haven't, but I really want to, because I used to go to Blockbuster all the time as a kid. And I remember like Friday night sleepover parties. My dad would like drive us to the Blockbuster in Gayton Crossing, and we'd get like Little Caesars pizza and Crazy Bread and then go to the Blockbuster and like pick out a movie. And it was so fun.
Wow, that's great. You know, it's interesting. About 2 weeks ago, I did one of my shows. I interviewed somebody it's out of LA actually. It's called Free Blockbuster. You may have seen them. Remember LA Weekly, and you lived in New York too, the Village Voice, and they had where the newspapers were and the little holders, the little stands that were everywhere. Well, they saw some of those sitting out in LA after Blockbuster went out of business, and they painted them Free Blockbuster. And it's one of those like little library you can bring DVDs or VHS tapes in, and you can pick one out. And that's kind of ironic. Yeah, and it's called Free Blockbuster. There's 4 or 5 of them in Richmond now.
That's so cool. I didn't know about that.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, it's new. So you loved New York.
Yes.
And now you're in LA. You have a preference? Would you like to go back to New York?
I would love to go back to New York, yeah. It's a great city. I feel like I fit in a little bit more there than I do here in LA. There's a big theater scene, and as I say in the book, I am a theater girl at heart, and I'm doing a play now, and I love it, and I hope to do more. What
play is that, and where is it playing?
I'm doing a play called 222, A Ghost Story at the Amundsen Theater here in Los Angeles, and it's been a blast. We just opened last weekend, and we're continuing our run through December 4th, I think, so...
There's a mention of Chris Pratt and Terminal Man, and in the acknowledgments, there's a mention of J-Lo, but you didn't talk about those 2 projects. Is there a reason? Were they just too late for the book, or is the book more about Constance?
I think they were pretty much too late for the book because like I said, started writing the book back in 2016.
Right.
And I finished most of it, honestly, before I even shot Hustlers.
Footnote. Constance starred with Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers in 2019, where they played exotic dancers.
And the only one I added at the end was the one about my tweets and fresh off the boat.
Right.
And then also the one about the monastery was one that I added as well. So yeah, actually those, like in Terminal List, I didn't start shooting that until, almost until like after my book had kind of gone to print. It hadn't been printed yet.
No,
right. Yeah, so I hadn't even started on that show, but I love doing that show. Love working with Chris.
Footnote. Chris Pratt is the Chris, and the show is The Terminal Man on Amazon.
It's a terrific show, and I had a great time on it.
What are you watching when you're sitting at home and you don't have to have something for the 2-year-old? Well, she doesn't do screens. So what are you watching when you and your boyfriend sit at home just to chill?
I honestly really like this show called The Great British Baking Show.
Everybody seems to love that show.
Yeah, I just really, and also I used to work in a bakery, Montana Gold in Richmond,
right.
So, which I write about in the book. And yeah, I really, really enjoy that show.
I just want to mention one thing that I just saw and just reviewed because you said you're a fan of the director, and it's called Triangle of Sadness.
Oh, yes.
Just came out. It got a standing ovation at Cannes, and it's by Ruben Östlund, who you said you want to work with one day, who did Force Majeure.
Amazing, amazing film. Yeah, I really do want to see Triangle of Sadness. I'm going to check that out.
It's very good. Well, I want to thank you again for coming to Richmond for just a few minutes and visiting with us, and good luck on your next book.
Thank you for having me, Jerry. It was so good to see you again.
Great. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
I've been talking with Constance Wu about her new book, Making a Scene, and about growing up in Richmond. There's a link to the book and more on the webpage for this episode.
Coming soon. In theaters.
The long-awaited sequel, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Bar fight. A couple competes in a custody battle for their favorite bar. Decision to leave. After a man falls to his death from a mountain peak, the detective finds his wife unusually calm. Directed by Park Chan-wook, who also did Old Boy and The Handmaiden. Meet Me in the Bathroom, a documentary about the music scene in New York during the early 2000s.
TV and streaming.
The Crown on Netflix. This 5th season has a changing of the cast, including Imelda Staunton as the Queen. Also returning to Paramount is the 5th season of Yellowstone, the Kevin Costner-led drama and one of my favorites about ranch life in modern Montana. Tulsa King, also on Paramount, and from Yellowstone creator Tyler Sheridan, is a drama about a New York mob boss who moves to Oklahoma, with Sly Stallone in the title role. The Calling on Peacock, from David E. Kelley, comes this crime drama about a spiritual New York City cop. The English on Amazon, Emily Blunt comes to this TV series as a 19th century English woman with her Pawnee Scout in Wyoming. From Devil's Birth on MSNBC and Peacock, a documentary about the deadly 2017 wildfires in Portugal. That's it for this week. You can subscribe to this podcast through most of the major services. You can go to tvjerry.com, click on podcasts, and there's a link. Next week, my guest is another local actor who's done well for himself in New York. Duke LaFoon will talk about being in The Watcher and Let the Right One In. Thanks for listening. This is Jerry Williams.
For more Sister, including literally thousands of reviews,
visit tvjerry.com.
That's a wrap.